Hey, Chicago, what do you say? It's the CHGO Cubs Podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Make sure you download the app and use the promo code CHGO when you sign up. Happy Monday, 31 days away from opening day for your Chicago Cubs. Luke Stuckmeyer, Cody Delmendo, and yes, he's back from Arizona. Ryan Herrera, the Hawaiian shirts are off. We're back to CHGO sweatshirts.
Yep.
Staying in warm clothes.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got a lot to talk about in this podcast, guys. We have our first games we were able to see for Cubs baseball. That was exciting. But the flip side of it is that we've already got injuries. You know, we talked about this roster building. Geez, for 2 months we were talking about roster building, adding all these guys. Look at the depth they have. Look at the depth they have. Well, apparently they're going to need that depth because just in the last couple minutes, yet another injury has popped up. This time it's Patrick Wisdom scratched from today's split squad lineup with left groin soreness. We have the big one that everybody's worried about is Seiya Suzuki with the oblique injury. We'll talk about that. And we also have Justin Steele, who had some arm fatigue and was scratched from his first start. We'll also talk about who we liked, stock up, stock down, overreactions at the end of the show. And, of course, Willson Contreras back in the – he can't stay out of our Cubs conversations. He's back in over the weekend. I know Cody's going to be happy about that. And we'll talk about how the Manny Machado contract in San Diego is going to impact the Cubs. But let's start with those early games, right? The first two games, Cubs play again here on Monday, split squad. How worried are you about Seiya Suzuki, Ryan? You saw him in person. He looks bigger, but apparently bigger doesn't mean you can't get hurt.
Yeah, I don't know until we see exactly what like the imaging tells us, right? Like here's the tweet from Jordan Bastian of MLB.com. Cubs going over imaging, taken on Seiya Suzuki, left oblique tightness today. Ross still not willing to speculate on timetable / WBC until he goes over things with the team's medical staff and talks with Suzuki. Still in wait and see mode. And I'm comparing it to what happened with Steele, who I'm sure we'll talk about here in a sec. But Steele seems a lot more precautionary than anything. The fact that Seiya is getting imaging done tells you it's a little more serious than that. But until we see exactly what the results of that MRI show, it's hard to get too low or too high. You know, it's hard to think of it one way or the other until we see what that tells us, because it could just be something that's bugging him, but maybe not so extreme that we have to worry about him like being ready for opening day or something, right? Like it seems that if it's really anything, WBC may not be in the plans anymore. But even that's what Ross said. He's like, he doesn't want to speculate on that until they consult everyone, until the whole plan has been laid out. So worry-wise, I'm not worried yet, I would say, just until we see what the results are, because then once you get that, you have a little bit more of like, oh man, like he might miss 4 weeks, whatever it is. Like that's not, that's just like an example, right? Like he might miss 4 weeks. Like this is actually kind of serious. Or it could be like he'll be fine in a week. I don't know. It's weird to speculate on it without having the full scope of what's going on, but I guess we'll see. I guess hopefully in the next couple of days we'll get those answers.
Cody looks worried up in that corner with a fresh haircut and no hat today.
Yeah, shout out Mike Dubs, appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to be worried. I'm trying to be optimistic about it. You guys know who I am. I am who I am. I'm going to think optimistically before I, decide that, or not decide, but consider taking a dip in a cold Lake, Michigan. But I think if he doesn't go to the World Baseball Classic, then it's something serious. And you know how oblique injuries are. They can linger. They can, honestly, the reason that I'm a little worried in general is just because it is an oblique injury. It's not something that just goes away. And he had injuries last year, and I'm just like the good vibes coming into camp are starting to wear off already. And I hate this. I hate this. I absolutely hate this. It's annoying.
Wait till we get to the second segment.
Don't even. Yeah. So I'm just I just hope it's not as bad. I hope what Ryan is saying is more likely. I hope that it's that, and they're just being super cautious and stuff. Maybe they learned something from last year with all the injuries they had with that random spring training, blah 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 blah. And I guess, if you want me to really be optimistic about it, well, if he does have to miss some time, the Cubs do have depth. They do have good depth, in my opinion, too. You can't be without him all season, obviously, but you definitely got some options that opens up opportunities for other guys, and we want to see some of those guys, and we can talk about that if you guys want. But yeah, I mean, I'd obviously rather say a Suzuki be our starting right fielder at the beginning of the year, but I fingers crossed that it's just precautionary.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think
it's a bummer though, Ryan, because of the expectations, right? When you see his new body coming in, everybody's like, well, he's going to build on that. This isn't the first step you wanted to see.
No, and I will say that as far as silver linings go, like if it is something serious and he's missing time, like at least it's February 27th, right? Like it's not a week before spring training ends, and it's not a week before opening day, and now you're worried, is he actually going to be ready? Like you have over a month until opening day starts. So if it is something a little bit serious and he's going to have to miss some time, like at least you have that long, and you want him to not be hurt and be getting ready right now for that opening day, to play on opening day. But silver lining wise, like at least it's happening at the end of February and not 3 weeks in the future, right? Like, so no, it's not what you wanted to see, because we talked to him and the whole, he's looking forward to having that second season. He had his first real off season because last year was so weird. Second season in the big league, still kind of in that adjustment phase of, the major league game somewhat. But he put on 20 pounds. He's excited because he thinks, that's going to help him with power, which in turn, everything's going to help his mechanics. Like he seemed very ready to go going into the season, excited for the season. And to see that happen, to get that news, I think that was on Friday, maybe, is when we heard about that. And that was disappointing, because you're kind of hoping for big things from Seiya Suzuki. I don't know that you're expecting it, but he's a $85 million man for a reason. Like, they paid a lot of money for this guy. You're kind of hoping for some big things out of him in season 2, and this is just kind of a setback that you didn't want to see.
I saw before we even got started with the live show, which, by the way, I hope you're watching on YouTube. We hope you are. We hope you subscribe to the CHGO Sports channel and make sure you give us the big 5-star review. We appreciate that. It's the best way to take in the whole show. You're going to miss Cody's haircut if you're not doing that. But if you're listening on the podcast and on Spotify, make sure Spotify or Apple or wherever, make sure you give us the thumbs up as well, too. We'd appreciate it. Let's look at the split squad lineups and see if we can find somebody that would have an opportunity if Seiya is injured. For that matter, if we find out that Justin Steele's arm fatigue is a little more serious than what they're saying. So 2 guys right out of the gate, right? Or for that matter, Patrick Wisdom out of the lineup now. He's been scratched over at third base in the second game. They play 1 against Cleveland, 1 against Arizona today. You look through that list and I say, all right, so who would be the outfield candidates? And the question in the chat was, does this mean it's an opening for Brennan Davis to make the team? Does this mean it's an opening for, whoever, Pete Crow Armstrong? I would say the guy that I see on this list that it really probably opens the door for, well, Nelson Velasquez would be one. Yeah. And I think you guys also believe, like we talked a lot last week about whether or not Christopher Morel would get enough at bats if they were going to go with the veteran guys like Wisdom at third. But because Christopher Morel can play both third and the outfield, I would think this makes it even more, who knows? This could all change in 2 days. Both guys could be back on the field. But if it continues or it's further, or if Seiya's injury imaging shows something, then Christopher Morel certainly is more likely to make the roster. And maybe somebody like, I'd say Nelson Velasquez, not necessarily one of the other guys. How do you guys feel about the outfield spot?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Cody.
I think Velasquez would get a shot. And I know it's not like a sexy name, even though he was someone that I was like begging for them to call up earlier last year. Turns out I don't know what I'm talking about because he definitely struggled in his time last year. But I think I was just clamoring for anything that wanted me to watch. But I no one's really talking about the guy going into camp because the Cubs outfield is set, and they have other prospects that have played better than him, right? But yeah, I think that Velasquez might get that first opportunity in right field at least. He wasn't great in center last year. Maybe be a better corner outfield. And I also think Morel is an option too, because I don't know. I mean, right field is hard to play at Wrigley Field, but he's athletic and he's shown that he can play all over the field. We didn't see him play a lot of right. I don't think he played right field once at all last year. So I don't know if I don't know if the Cubs even want to give him that challenge because it is not the easiest position at Wrigley Field, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So he'd probably be my second choice, but is someone that I would be intrigued just because I do want to see him in the lineup and I do want to see him on the opening day roster. If he has a decent enough spring. But yeah, those are probably the two. And I still think that Brennan Davis is going to start in AAA no matter what. Like they'd have to have significant injuries, like worse than what it is right now if Brennan Davis was going to get that chance. Unless Brennan Davis has an insane spring, you know what I mean? I think that would be the only thing if he forced himself onto the team, and the Cubs had some injuries and stuff like that. If Seiya's thing is a little bit more serious, I don't know how many more at bats they want him to have, because that's kind of what we talked about going into last year with him was, we didn't really think we'd see him until July. And then with the whole back injury, basically didn't play at all, except for that first month in which he wasn't very good because of the back thing. So, and then only played 5 games in the Arizona Fall League. So he just hasn't had the at-bats that the Cubs want him to have, I'm assuming. So I won't bank on it. So I would say those two. I know a lot of people are intrigued about Darius Hill as well. Played a lot in center or played a lot of outfield in Iowa last year. I don't know. I either way, none of those options are better than Seiya Suzuki. And so this sucks. I don't like this conversation.
Ryan, what do you think about what Doug's saying? Does this make it more likely for Mervis to make the team because Mancini could?
No, I don't think so. I don't think this affects.
That's how I
don't think this affects Matt Mervis's outlook for opening day, because there's just so many other options that the whole thing with Matt Mervis and the Cubs definitely have they feel good about him as a prospect, and he's that quick rise up last year was awesome. It was so out of nowhere, but also this for a position the Cubs had a lot of. It felt like one of their biggest holes, and I get why everyone's excited, because now you're this is a guy who could potentially fill that hole that Anthony Rizzo left behind. That the outlook, at the end of 2021 didn't look great, but it's 1 year, right? His 2021 wasn't very good. His 2022 was awesome, but that's 1 year in the minor leagues. He doesn't have a whole lot of AAA experience. The Cubs signed Eric Hosmer. They signed Trey Mancini. They brought in Edwin Rios. Not as they don't believe in Matt Mervis type thing, but it's just they have 3 guys that are big league options right now that could play first base. They have, Patrick Wisdom could move over to first base if need be. I just don't see this affecting where Matt Mervis is going to play. Maybe he has just some insane spring, like Cody was talking about with Brennan Davis. Maybe he has some insane spring, and then it gets to the point where they're well, we can't not have Matt Mervis on the opening day roster. I don't think that's even likely at all, but that feels more like that would force the Cubs' hand than an injury to Seiya Suzuki at the beginning or at the end of February. I don't think this really has much of an effect on where Matt Mervis might be playing on March 30th is the first day, something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't see a real scenario where Matt Mervis is on the opening day roster right now. You never really know what's going to happen in the next month. Every first base option could get hurt. Knock on wood, they don't, right? But that's not a non-zero chance. And then that would obviously lead to Matt Rivers being on the opening day roster, but I don't see this having much of an effect on it. I think we're still looking at Matt Rivers starting 2023 in AAA, and then we'll see how quickly he rises from there.
Michael says with a $5 super chat, injuries happen every spring training. Exactly why I thought Hayden and Brennan had better than good shot at making the opening day roster lineup. Yeah, well, we're just going to see how it all plays out. We're chopping it up, just throwing around ideas. Like this is spitballing. We don't even know how serious or not serious the injuries are. I remember Joe Madden used to say all the time, somehow baseball has a way of working itself out. And that it really is true. Like we can sit all off season and pinpoint this guy's going to be here, he's going to bat here, and then an injury may or may not happen day one of spring training, the last day of spring training, the middle of spring training, and everything unfolds. So let's not panic yet. Wait, one more super chat. PCA, is he ready for 23? Fernando Rodriguez, 2 games, still green. Yeah, I'm not going to decide that over the weekend. There's no way he's making in the opening day roster.
No way. I was just going to say, related to the last comment that we read, that there's more likelihood of Hayden Wisniewski making that opening day roster than it is Brennan Davis. Yeah. Undoubtedly.
Sure, especially if Justin Steele's arm is fatigued and it sets him back even just a couple weeks.
Right.
So,
if that makes the chat feel better. But I understand why a lot of people want to see Mervis and Brennan Davis. They're, especially Davis, top 20 prospect a year ago, the injury, whatever. But the only reason that I don't think he will is just because he just hasn't had the at-bats that the Cubs want him to have. And they have outfield depth. Like Happ, Suzuki, Bellinger, Morel can play the outfield, Velasquez. They have first go. Like I wouldn't necessarily say they're the first option, but I think they're the options the Cubs feel more comfortable with because they don't want to rush Davis to the majors. And I'm okay with that from a certain standpoint. However, I don't want to be sitting here in July and August and Brennan Davis not be here. So it's a little bit of I'm trying to compromise with the Cubs and with my feelings regarding Brennan Davis. So,
so as far as the games go, we'll see how the lineup thing unfolds. And when we get more information about Seiya, probably tomorrow, then we'll probably have a better idea of what they're thinking about. And I'm sure the Cubs will say who it opens the door for.
Manifesting Seiya Suzuki's health. It's fine. Manifest.
It's just precautionary. That's what we're hoping.
Yes.
What did you think of the games overall? I got to tell you, I didn't watch all of both games, but I watched enough that I was able to see that the game is faster paced with the pitch clock. And you know how I feel about that. Yes, and more. Yes. The pitch clock could go to 10 seconds for all I care. Move it along. My wife's not a huge baseball fan, but she walked by and she said, What's that countdown on the screen? Which was funny because that was there instead of seeing like how fast the pitch was or what the pitch was. It's the clock. And I'll be curious to see what broadcasts use throughout the season. Are they just going to put it down in the corner? Is it going to come up like a shot clock? Is it, is it only going to pop up when you get down to the final like 5 seconds? Or are they going to make it a major part of the broadcast? But she saw it and she goes, what is that? And I said, well, the games should be faster this year because they've got this pitch clock and the batters have to be ready. The pitchers have to be ready. She's like, whoa, that seems huge. What took so long? I'm like, yeah, no doubt. Like they should have done this 30 years ago. But finally, we're not going to have to see the wristband for 80 times every time every guy comes up. Fix the one glove, fix the other glove. Okay, grab the crotch, fix the hat. Let's pull the shirt down.
Only Nomar was cool.
Let's step off, do the rosin. Let's go back. Oh, got to redo the wristbands. I know I sound old. I know it, but I don't have that much time. So let's move these along. I loved the pitch clock.
Yeah.
I was a big fan. I was a big fan when it first announced, and I mean, I saw the Braves game on like Sunday that was like bottom 9 bases loaded or something like that, and the guy got called out for the hitter got called out. I I thought that was funny. I thought that was hilarious, but it's also just like overall, even if the games like time themselves aren't like that much faster, I still think just the general pace being faster is going to be the biggest benefit from the pitch clock. Like you're saying, Luke, you're not going to have relievers taking 30 seconds in between pitches and maybe even longer than that, right? Like you're going to have guys having to throw pitch within 20 seconds. I think the overall pace of the game is just going to be better. And whether that shaves off 10 minutes on average or 30, whatever it is, I think you're going to feel that and notice that a lot more than anything else. So I liked it. I enjoyed it. I'm still a big fan of it. And I'm excited to see exactly how many 2.5 hour games we can get in this season out of 162.
Yeah. So I saw a lot of people complaining, saying like these are the complaints I saw.
Okay.
People complaining that, oh, well, if these games are shorter, then tickets should be cheaper. And well, majority of the games, they all went like a half hour less than the league average time from last year, which is like 3 hours and 7 minutes. Most of them were like 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes. I think I saw a few games from Saturday that were like 2 hours and 15 minutes, whatever. Like it's not significantly, you're not significantly losing time. And if you really care about that extra half hour, just show up to the ballpark early. I mean, shit. I'm just saying. So I thought that was like a dumb reason to like get to like hate it. The only thing overall, I enjoy it because the pace, you could feel the pace being up and just stuff happening. There was no dead time, and that was the point of this, right? It was to eliminate dead time. And the only thing that that I'm bothered by is, I swear to God, if we get to when games matter and a game ends because of the pitch clock penalty, I don't care even if the Cardinals lose off it. I mean, I'll probably think it's funny, but I still don't like it. If it becomes a serious thing, and I'm like happening once a day, different teams, whatever. If it becomes a serious thing, the MLB needs to change something with it, whether it's adding 5 seconds or, I tweeted yesterday that maybe, turn it off after the 8th inning. If a game is close, something like that. I do not want games ending because of the pitch clock penalty. That is dumb.
I think when I look at it,
it won't impact games, because I even heard Theo talking about it on the radio when about a week ago, and he was saying at the minor league level on the first day they had a batter end a game for the same exact reason, and he said, you know how many times it happened the rest of the minor league season? 0. Because they learned their lesson quickly. It's about the players getting used to it. It's about the umpire getting used to it, the pitchers getting used to it. And he said, it took about, to be honest, probably like 40 games, 40, 50 games even, for everybody to get fully used to it. But you're aware of it enough. If you don't want it to end a game, you're not going to let that impact the end of the game. And 40 games in, they weren't even thinking about the old stuff anymore, because new habits are formed and you're able to boot those apart. So I'm not worried about it impacting the game. As far as the games are long, or the games are going to be shorter, we should pay less. I mean, do you pay more for a 4-hour movie? No. It's the same. Do you pay more when you download Stairway to Heaven from Led Zeppelin because it's an 8-minute song? No, it's the same price as a song that's 2 minutes long. Enjoy that. The product should be better. If the product's better, that's what you should be paying for.
And I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a problem. I'm just saying that if it does, and again, I don't think it will, but
the way I look at it is like with the auto runner, that's only in the regular season, and it's like how compare the amount of just like extra inning games that actually, like how many wins and losses really isn't that much. Like the effect that the auto runner and the extra innings will have isn't as prevalent as just like a regular game. Like you're not going to see standings completely flip that often just because of a couple of extra inning games, the auto runner. And it's the same way I look at it like this, like how many actual games are going to be affected because of a hitter or a pitcher not being ready to go in the bottom of the ninth inning, right? Like it's probably not going to happen that often, especially as you said, Luke, once these guys get adjusted to it and get used to it and understand the pace and how quickly they have to be in the box or how quickly they have to start their pitch. And you may not see it affect that bottom of the ninth inning kind of situation at all, right? You might not see any games this entire season actually end on that. So the people talking about like, oh, is it going to happen? But it's probably not. And if it gets to, the one thing I'm curious about is like how they tweak the extra inning rule, the auto runner and extra innings rule, is they don't have it in the playoffs, right? Like, is there going to be some kind of tweaking with the pitch clock when the playoffs do start? Like, is that something they've thought about and are planning on doing, like implementing? Like, that's one thing I'm curious about, because regular season game, like if people get mad because the regular season game ends on some pitch clock violation, then boo freaking who. You got 161 other games to make up that one loss, right?
That's right. And
playoff games might be a little bit different. And if something were to happen like that in the playoffs, then I understand like the whole idea of like, what the hell?
It's like any other rule. If they don't know the rule, like you have to be on the base to be safe, well, then eventually you learn the rule. Like it becomes a rule of the game. I see what Fernando is saying in the chat, like that one time could decide a playoff berth. You know how many things happen in a full season when these games are 4 hours long? A billion things could impact one playoff berth. You have an entire summer to make up for it. And if it happens in the postseason, like Dubs is saying, if the pitch clock were to, somehow continue on and it's in the postseason and impact, well, that would be on the player. Know the game, know the rules. The NBA players, if they don't get a shot off before the shot clock, you know what happens? They shrug because they realize that was the rule. It's no different than the shot clock in basketball. Yeah, once you get used to it, it becomes part of the game. Just like the 3-point line. There wasn't always 3-point line. They put it in, all of a sudden players adjusted to it. It didn't ruin the game forever. Dustin Super Chat says, you guys notice how much more second basemen and shortstops were diving for balls. Seemed like a lot more play. Well, that's what they're hoping for with the shift rules and having 1 foot. I did notice that a lot of guys were. It'll be interesting to see how they watch infielders. Like, oh, did he have his foot on on the dirt? Because they're all still running back. They just have to have it on as the pitch is being delivered, but they're still going to try and push that as far as possible. Overall, the first weekend just watching it, you knew there'd be some hiccups. There'll be hiccups the rest of the spring, but I like the way it looks.
Yeah. All I know is if the Cubs lose because of the pitch clock penalty during the regular season, I want you guys to know that I will be very upset and very pissed off. I'm letting you know now.
At what? At what, Cody? At the dumb player? At the player that would be dumb enough?
I will just be very. I will be very mad. I will be very mad for that. If that is a reason they lose a game, yes, I'll be very mad. I'll be more mad about that than any of the other shit that baseball gods have put me through the last 30 years of my life. The thing is like I agree with you guys. The players should adjust.
You'll be mad at the player though, not at the pitch clock. You'd be mad at the player for not knowing
I just don't like it ending the game. I don't like it ending the game. Yeah, there's shot clock violations in the NBA stuck, but shot clock violations don't necessarily end the game.
But they can.
The buzzer does. The buzzer does, and if they don't get the shot off, the game-winning shot because the shot didn't count. It didn't count.
Though.
Well, that's what we're saying. Like, how often are you actually going to see that end the game in real in baseball? It's probably not going to happen very often, if at all. But I'm saying, but what Stuckey is saying, the fact that it could happen is no different than the fact that a shot clock violation could end the game in basketball, or
the clock just runs out.
Yeah, the fish players, the fish players says the same thing about the play clock in football. It's the same thing. You let 40 seconds run off, you get a false start. Like it's the same thing.
I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. It's the semantics of it that I don't like. So again, I hope the players adjust, and it's not a thing. I genuinely hope that is, because I do like the faster games and I like the rule. I just don't want it to become a serious problem. I'm going
to tell you how we solve this right now. I'm going to tell you how we solve this. And first of all, it's already solved. Theo said it happened once in the minor leagues and it didn't happen the rest of the season. Here's how you solve it. All the players need to start taking AG1 because it improves your focus. Okay. So if you have your focus at the end of the game, it's not going to be a problem. I've been taking AG1 because I didn't have time, wanted better gut health, more energy, and an optimized immune system. I've been on it almost a year now. I love it. It doesn't taste super healthy. Instead, it's a mild tropical taste that I actually look forward to taking in the morning. Here's what it is. 1 scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to start your day right. A special blend of ingredients supporting your gut health, your nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, wait for it, focus, and aging, all those things. I get a noticeable boost of energy, so I take it first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Giddy up, there I go. Whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, gluten-free, or dairy-free, you're all good with AG1, and you're investing in an all-in-one nutritional insurance for less than $3 a day. Recommended by professional athletes, more than 7,000 five-star reviews. Right now, reclaim your health, arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition, just 1 scoop and a cup of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is giving you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs. Maybe you're heading out to Arizona for some Cactus League action. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs. Again, athleticgreens.com/CHGO Cubs to take ownership over your health. Pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Problem solved.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have my AG1, and whenever I bet on the Cubs on DraftKings Sportsbook this summer, and they lose because whoever decides that they forget about the pitch clock and they lose, and I lose a bet because of it, I'm going to come on CHGO Cubs postgame and scream about it. But again, let's just hope that doesn't happen. DraftKings Sportsbook is the official betting partner of CHGO in all city. Ideas for you guys if you don't have the app. I know my guy in the chat, Mike Dubs, does. He's telling me he's betting on spring training baseball. That's real degeneracy right there. You can do that. You got MLB player futures. We're going to talk about some futures on CHGO Bets Daily later today. Me and Sean. NBA no sweat same game parlays is still a thing. You can get a boost for college basketball parlays. I've been doing that every single day for the since this new year started. All kinds of great stuff. Download the app now and sign up with code CHGO. New customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA with code CHGO. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Very nice.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I didn't get to say it at the end of this pitch clock thing, but the one thing I am very intrigued to see it with it is how much it affects the who you got standings. That's the most important thing. Yeah, like who's gonna get screwed because their guy strikes out because he wasn't ready for like a bases loaded hit, right? Like a bases loaded situation, he strikes out because he wasn't ready by the 9-second mark. Like, that's what I'm curious. And that's I think that's the most important thing with this pitch clock is just. Can
you wager on that on DraftKings? The first violation and who will be at fault?
I don't know, but
because I feel like that could be a side bet. If we can't do it on DraftKings, that could be a side bet that we do preseason pick. Which Cubs player will get called for the first regular season shot clock violation, pitch clock violation? Will it be a pitcher? Will it be a hitter? Or will it be maybe an infielder for not following the rules of the shift or no shift? I don't know where I'm going on that.
I would lean
that out there.
I would lean that the person most likely to do it would be a seasoned veteran, because the young guys who are in the minors are probably already adjusted to it. So I would just assume some guy, whether they're older veterans who are just they've been doing the same thing their entire career, more so than even young guys who have been in the league for a few years. That's what I would guess.
Yeah. It's my thing is it's probably going to be some veteran reliever that already takes 30 something seconds to, in between most of his pitches. Right. And then that for those relievers, especially those guys that throw hard, I think one of the main things is taking your time in between pitches to be able to throw give it everything each pitch. And now if they're sped up by 10 plus seconds, that might have an effect on their average velocities, right? So I don't know. There might be guys.
What if Kimbrel's caught in the hanging, dangling arm and he doesn't have time to get back up? He's going to have to work on that.
That might be a thing. I forgot who isn't there a Cardinals reliever that took like 30 seconds in between pitches, or there's some reliever that I can't remember what team, but it's like 30 something seconds.
I don't know,
in between pitches. I'm like, that's going to be an adjustment for those.
The slowest reliever I remember ever is Pedro Baez, who was a reliever for the Dodgers.
Yeah, there's one.
He was so slow. Those NLCS games in 2016, when he came in the game, I felt like those innings took an hour.
By the way, I mentioned the position players out in the field are going to be, trying to keep that 1 foot off and then hopping off back into the grass as fast as possible. The way the pitch clock will be teetered with a little bit on players trying to slow it down. For the pitching side, 100%, the catcher's just going to wait to throw it back. He's going to pound the ball in the glove a couple times, look around, stretch, and then throw it back just to give that extra 1 or 2 seconds if he thinks his relief pitcher, whoever might be flustered, gassed at all, needs to collect his thoughts. That's how they'll do it. You'll get a slower throw from the catcher, because the way I've seen it working so far is it doesn't start until that pitcher catches the ball.
No.
Right? So there's a little wiggle room, second and a half, 2 seconds for a catcher to try and mess with it a little bit if they want to. So we'll keep an eye on that. What do you think of Manny Machado? 11,350 for the Padres. The dream dies. He will not be your Cubs third baseman.
My favorite part. My favorite part of the dream was the hope, and it always will be the hope and the friends that we made along the way, guys. I made so many friends during this dream. The relationships. I mean, boy, let me tell you about those. But yeah, no, I mean, dude's he's gonna make so much money by the end of his career. It's insane. How the Padres have all this money, I don't know. And it's the one thing that I'll always be able, as much as I give ownership a break, especially these days, because they did spend like the 5th most money this offseason. They could have gone a little extra harder and, maybe brought in a couple all-stars, not just Dansby Swanson. But yeah, I mean, the Padres, they look like a team that's set up for a long stretch of success if they stay healthy. That said, I don't know now if they will pay Juan Soto. So the new dream is,
boy, are they stupid if they don't pay Juan Soto after making that trade.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, like, that's the new dream. The new dream is Juan Soto or Ohtani, of course.
It just does.
It could have been it could have been a dream come true if the Cubs would have just traded for Soto in the season. But I won't bring that point up again. That'll be the last time
You love to bring it up. That'll
be the last time I mention it. It's a new season.
I just say the Padres. There's a couple things. One is San Diego is not a small market. I think it's like number 11 in the country. It's almost a top 10 market, but it is also not Chicago. So to see the type of money that they're throwing around, it's also not New York or the Mets or the Yankees. So to see the money that they are throwing around at players, it's mind-blowing. And they've really gone after it. So it'll be interesting to see if they can finally get a World Series just by spending cash. Because if they do, if the teams that are overspending, and I'm not saying 11 for 350 is overspending for Machado, it may or may not be, that's debatable. But if the teams like the Mets and the Yankees and the Padres and Phillies at this point, if those teams start winning consistently, then it's going to put the pressure on those other teams to start doing something about it.
Yeah.
It will put pressure on to do more than Dansby Swanson. Cubs spent $300+ million, but they spend it on a lot of players, not on one guy.
Not one guy, yeah.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It is kind of funny to see. Like the Padres have long been one of those teams that you didn't expect to be shelling out all this money, or even making the playoffs consistently. Like that. Like they were just kind of that team. Obviously, the last few years things have changed since they signed Manny Machado the first time. That they brought him into San Diego. Originally, like that kind of opened some eyes. Fernando Tatis is a superstar, and they signed him. They extended him right at some point. I don't remember exactly what it was, but how much money they're giving him. But that they did that with him. They went out and traded for Soto, and like you guys said, would be dumb to not try to extend him. Like they're willing to give out a lot of money to these guys, and if a team like San Diego can do it, the Cubs should be able to do it themselves. And like now they have to, be willing to give anyone $200 million first before they can go up to $350 million for a guy like Manny Machado. But the Cubs definitely have the kind of resources. And Tom Ricketts talked about it like a week ago, actually, when we talked to him down in Mesa about just kind of how everyone that signs those contracts, every team that gives out those contracts, like they are taking on a risk. And it's true because you're giving, Manny Machado on what is, I don't know, a 350 divided by 11. I don't know what the average annual value of his contract is, probably like $34 million, something like that a year. So you're giving a guy on average $34 million a year who's going to be late 30s, 40, I think, by the end of that contract. Like that, you're taking on a risk for like trying to win now and trying to get as much production at his peak years as you are when, he's going to be old and have decline, which just happens, right? So it is a risk. And I think that's why one of the main reasons we kind of saw the Swanson contract as like a good deal is the fact that it was only 7 years. So you're only paying him, until he's probably like 36-ish, 37-ish. Like that's when his contract's going to be up, and you're not taking that on through his, into his 40s. But if you want to be a team that can probably go out and win consistently, you have to be willing to give those kind of deals to, a Manny Machado type deal to a guy like Manny Machado. And the Cubs haven't shown the willingness to do that yet. So we'll see. But they are the third largest market in the city. They're probably one of the most valuable teams in all of North American sports. Like they have the resources to do that. They have the ability to give those kind of deals. They have to show they will do it though. That's the main thing.
What's wild to me is that like people are still mad at ownership for not spending money, even though they spent money. But yeah, the most money they spent on was Dansby Swanson, who technically everyone believed was the fourth best shortstop on the free agent market this offseason and not the top shortstop, free agent shortstop or whatever. So whether depending on how you feel about Dansby Swanson or not, like people are opinionated about that. But then on the other hand, to kind of spin it, not in anyone's direction, but now I'm curious on how much money Ian Happ is going to get, because now the free agent market for next offseason, it's not as juicy as this past offseason. And, I was reading some tweets yesterday, and, a lot of people think that Ian Happ could get like the Brandon Nimmo contract, which was like 6 years, $150 million. And we were all kind of shocked that he got that kind of money, but that's Steve Cohen, and he's just shelling out money to whoever, doesn't care.
Time's running out, by the way. Time's running out. And I feel like if the Cubs don't give, if they don't give significantly more than what we've already talked about, what we've talked about before on this podcast, Ian Happ, 4 or 5 years, 85, 90 million, maybe go up to 100 just because he's been with the organization forever. But like, because considering all the money that's going to some of these players, Ian Happ's got to be thinking he can get something like what Brandon Nimmo got, right? And like, I want Ian Happ here long term. I really do, but I don't think he's worth that kind of money when he had one consistent year and he's had an up and down career before that. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this season plays out if they don't get an extension done with him, which I hope they do, because Jed literally said that they don't want to go into the season with bad vibes with players and walk years. So it's going to be interesting with that whole thing. But, Manny Machado signing this contract sure as hell doesn't help the Cubs in terms of getting a cheaper deal with Ian Happ done. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I see that in the chat, Shane is saying, the broadcast just started for the game against Cleveland, saying Taylor McGregor said team doctors are flying to Chicago to review Seiya's MRI. Hope to have news by the end of the night. Barb was asking about, are we going to talk about Killian? Yeah, likely the game will be over much after the end of this podcast, which is live from 1:20 to 2:20 every day, but we will certainly talk about Caleb Killian a little bit tomorrow. $5 from Little Yumper. So if the Cubs don't sign Happ, should this front office be labeled as one that has failed to extend players outside of Hendricks? So far, they have been. And whether or not that is fair is still debatable, because Obviously, it takes two sides for the deal to get done. And if players are asking for too much or they think they're worth too much, then I don't think fans should want them to sign the deal if it's totally out of the. But at this point, the sample size of players who they've tried to negotiate and sign and have been successful, Kyle Hendricks and David Bodie versus the ones that have not.
Well, this front office also extended Rizzo.
It's pretty obvious which way it's
and
going.
Starling Castro, if you want to get real technical about
they did extend Rizzo pre-World Series.
Yes,
so
for sure, but they did do it. I'm just saying.
They did. It's.
But yeah, I get everyone's like angst about it and everyone's like negativity about it. Yeah. I'm with you. Like I would love to go into the season with Happ or Horner extended. Mm-hmm. All I was saying about Happ is that he's going to be more money now. He's going to be one of the top free agent outfielders on the market this winter.
Yeah,
and
the more that guys, the potential free agents start coming off the market, the higher that Happ rises on that list, the more money he's going to make. Like that's just what happens when the top free agents are going to get a lot of money. Like that's just, so the higher that Happ goes on that list, as who is it? Devers. His extension with the Red Sox took him off that list. Now Machado, his extension takes him off that list. No, they don't play the same position, but there are going to be teams out there that have holes to fill. And, even if it's Machado at third base versus Ian Happ in the outfield, like teams are going to get desperate too. They want upgrades wherever it is on the field. And they see Ian Happ's like, oh, now he's one of the best hitters on on the market. Like pay him the money. Like teams are going to be going after him with less other, fewer other players out there. So I get what you both are saying. And I saw that on Twitter and people were like, how does this affect Ian Happ, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it affects Ian Happ the way it affects everyone else on the market. Like the more guys come off the market, the more money other guys are going to get in the long run. So,
and even Jeff Passan tweeted it. He after Machado signed, he named like Ian Happ was like the third guy he listed in terms of like, who are the top free agents for next year's class. And like, so obviously, we know Ian Happ knows this, so I just don't think you're going to get a team-friendly deal for Ian Happ anymore. And whether we can blame them for not getting it done earlier or not, I don't know. All I know is that I don't want to give Ian Happ Brandon Nimmo money, but I also don't want Ian Happ to not be a Cub. So if we can find a middling ground here, that'd be great, but I doubt that.
You know what's going to impact Ian Happ's salary next season? How he plays this year if they don't sign him to an extension. If he has a great season, then maybe the Cubs look at it, even though they didn't sign the extension, and say, you know what, he is worth the money, but now we're going to pay more than we would have if we would have. They may look in hindsight and say, well, he's great, and we missed our opportunity, and now it's going to cost us. That could be a strategy in general, period. They could look at him and say, play it out this year. If you have a great season, we will give you that contract. In fact, we'll pay you more than we would have if we didn't take the gamble. They got to figure that out. One guy they didn't re-sign, we all know, Willson Contreras. I don't know if Kevin has the quick video from Twitter of Wilson's interview about the Cubs organization versus the Cardinals way, Cubs way versus the Cardinals way. But let's go ahead and play that, Kevin, if you got it. It's a short, 50-second comment from Willson Contreras. Then I'm going to guess has triggered at least half of Cubs fans. I love that we got the Cardinals commercial zinger in there at the end of that. Okay.
Oh, man.
Shout out to my guy, Alan Stout, who works at Bally Sports Midwest. There, I said something nice about the Cardinals broadcast team. There you go.
Here's one thing you can't. Here's one thing you have to look yourself in the mirror. Okay. The credit goes to Valley Sports Midwest. He said it's a better organization.
Is he wrong? That's my thing. Is he like that wrong?
How far you zoom out, he's not wrong about that. Now they haven't won a World Series as recently as the Cubs.
No.
So. Not necessarily in recent years, but in general, if you look back at the last 25 years, you say which organization has been better. Well, as much as it hurts, it has been the Cardinals. Yeah. But I don't get why he has to take the bait on it. That said, I'm not losing sleep. That said, I think Cody might be. So Cody, If you're to the point where you can't take it anymore, let us know.
I'm really not that bothered by it. I don't like hearing it. Like, we talked about this. This is Willson Contreras. This is what he does.
Yeah.
This is what he does. But it doesn't mean I want to hear it, though. But also at the same time, like, why? Why is he doing this? Sure, last year, the Cubs, dangling him around, trying to trade him, not being able to, thanks to Dusty Baker, whatever. I get it. I get the business, like, bothering him that much. I get that. But, dude, he was with the organization for 14 years. The Cubs gave him the opportunity to be a major league player, all these things.
That's fair.
And, I understand why fans have completely flipped some, and I understand why some aren't. For me, I'll give him my one, like, if I'm at a game, if I go to a Cubs-Cardinals game this year, first game I'm at for that, and he comes to the bat, I'll give him a hand. Nice round of applause. But that's all he's getting from me. And it sucks because the dude, there's a reason that he's beloved here. There's a reason he got all those damn standing ovations. There's a reason for all of it. But, like, it's almost like he's purposely doing it to not only just, like, poke bear at the Cubs front office, but also, like, it almost at the fans. So he's saying all kinds of shit that the fans don't want to hear. And I get it. He's doing it to get on the Cardinal fan side too. But there's just parts of it that it just Baez, Rizzo, Bryant, none of them did any of that shit. And I know they didn't go to the Cardinals, but even though Rizzo, his time with the Cubs at the very beginning when he left, like that, even though that didn't end well, there's quotes of him last year saying all kinds of great things about the Cubs. And he told Jamison Taillon to come here. That's the difference between Willson Contreras and the rest of them. And whenever I'm being told by some certain minor league players about Willson Contreras' reputation within the organization, and then hearing what he's saying now, I'm not necessarily surprised, man. Like, it is what it is.
Look at the different reactions in the chat. You have RWB saying, to be honest, Willson is dead to all of us. Then Fernando with a super chat for $5 saying, Cards are trolling since they have nothing else going on. They've been constantly asking some questions for clips. The line has been drawn. Done with him. Niren says he'd do the same thing if he was Willson. And Barbara's point, this is a great point from Barbara. Then why was he crying so much about leaving the team that he says is not as good as an organization? Yeah. That's fair.
Here's my take on this. And I don't know, Cubs fans may not be happy to hear this, but like my thing is like, for number one, just like what do you expect? What did people really surprised that Willson Contreras, who one likes to get under other teams' skin, and two is pissed that the Cubs let him go, and first of all tried to trade him too. Like, as much as he said he understood the game, the business side of baseball, like he's not happy that the Cubs didn't want him around anymore. So those two things mixed together, why is everyone so surprised that he's taking shots at the front office? And that's the other part of it is like, most of what he has said has not had anything to do with Cubs fans, but they are reading it as he is taking shots at Cubs fan base. And I think when I look at it, most of it, like probably like 90-something% of it has just been taking shots at the front office and the organization itself, not the fans. So I don't know. It makes me laugh because it's like people are getting so mad about it when like that's Willson Contreras. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, right? Like he is not afraid to get under people's skin and stir some stuff up. He's just an emotional player, and that's why people liked him so much when he was here. But I'm not surprised that he's, like just taking some shots at the front office or the organization. And to be fair to him too, it's like it's not like he's getting asked the question, like I'm sure I didn't see what the question exactly was, but I'm sure it was whoever interviewed him saying, what do you
compare the two organizations? I think
so it was a question kind of being asked to him versus him coming out and tweeting like the Cubs organization sucks. Cardinals way is so much better.
There's a difference.
I don't know. So it just kind of makes me laugh that this whole thing is like the Cubs fans have turned on Willson. I think it's funny. I think it's funny that people are just like this surprised that he's saying things. And I get it. Like, it's not like him, like picking on the Brewers or whatever, right? Like he was with the Cubs organization for a long time. Cubs fans like loved him and supported him a lot. And even most fans wanted him back as well. but he is with the Cardinals now. He's trying to appease himself to the Cardinals fan base, and it's I don't know. It's just funny to me. I'm not surprised that it's happening. I'm not going to tell Cubs fans not to be pissed about it because they're going to be regardless. And whatever. If you're reading it as a Cubs fan and saying that he's crapping on the organization after we gave him so much love, then you read it that way. That's fine. I don't know. It's just looking at it from like trying to a middling perspective. I just think it's not surprising to see that this stuff is happening.
Lil Yumper says Willson must have needed another 25 ovations to feel loved. LOL. Max says, as a fan, this sucked to hear after supporting him for years. He's doing everything to burn the bridge all the way down. It's so split down the middle. There's very few people that are like us, like, well, whatever. I agree 100%. I expected every bit of it. I understand it. That doesn't make it easier for Cubs fans to hear it.
No. But
knowing his personality, this is what you were going. Once they headed down that road, this is the way it was going to end. I don't think it means he doesn't love Chicago or the Cubs, but he's mad at some people, and because he felt like he gave everything and they turned their back on him. They felt like they were making a business decision. Now he's with the Cardinals. I think it's going to be real ugly. And somebody mentioned it in the chat. I do think it's going to be interesting to see if Willson gets plunked in a game against the Cardinals this year, how players will react if that happens. Yeah. Even if it's accidental, to see what will happen the first time either team gets plunked could be interesting if he's behind the home plate. So something to keep an eye on. I'll tell you what else you want to keep an eye on, Ryan, is the ComEd facility assessments, because boy, you could save some money there.
Yeah, a ComEd energy efficiency program committed to helping families and businesses in the communities we serve save money and energy. ComEd offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities, whether it's lighting, HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes. An authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. Don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips and to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz. Ready to sign up for a facility assessment? Call them at 1-855-433-2700 during normal business hours to speak with a ComEd Energy Efficiency Program representative. Email businessee@comed.com or request an assessment online at their website at comed.com/facility assessment.
All right, we only have a few minutes left here on the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings. We want to do our quick overreacting reactions. Do what we do, overreact to the first 2 games in Cactus League action. Cody's famous for his stock up, stock down. Usually it's trade value. First overreactions. I say David Bodie, stock up. Javier Assad, stock up. Adrian Sampson, not quite as good. Guys, I'll say this. I don't have David Bodie pegged as a guy who's necessarily on this opening day roster, but in his first 2 games, 1 for 3, a 3-run homer that basically won the game, and 2 for 2 with an RBI double. He's back in the lineup today. David Bodie, if he wants to make the roster, keep playing like that. Play with a chip on your shoulder, and maybe there's a chance. Anybody that you would give an overreaction to? Maybe it's too soon, but it is too soon. Let's be honest.
Listen, man.
They're called overreactions for a reason.
Marquis put the video out there. Nick Madrigal fielding 2 ground balls at third base yesterday, and boy, did it get the people talking. So he fielded 2 ground balls at third base perfectly fine and threw over to first. He actually got the ball all the way across the diamond. I know a lot of people in the chat couldn't believe that he could actually do that. Oh, and he hit the ball of the outfield multiple times. One for a hit and one that drove a run in. I mean, holy shit. I couldn't believe it, guys. That's the joke. Anyway,
Wisdom's a little banged up. Wisdom, we saw it. Groin injury, Madrigal, opportunity arises.
Yeah. It was, I mean, in all seriousness, it was he did, and let me preface this by saying I don't want Nick Madrigal getting majority of the playing time at third base, but he did look like he could play a serviceable third base if you absolutely needed him to. And the bat showed. The bat showed.
Yeah.
And that's honestly what we care about the most, is that the bat showed. Opposite field knock that drove in a run. So we'll see. I have no idea what the Cubs are going to do with him at this point, but there's value there, and I hope he continues to show it in the spring, whether that way they can trade him or they trade someone else so he can play more. I don't know.
Yeah. I remember when we did one of the last few days I was down in Mesa, and they did the infield, outfield warm-up stuff. And he was playing third base, Madrigal, and the throws were fine. They were, those ones where it wasn't like the ones the concern I've seen from people, and I don't totally disagree, is those shots, that make him dive towards the line. Like, does he have the arm strength to get off a good throw from there? I don't know that he does until he shows it to us. But at the same time, I don't think we're talking about Madrigal playing third base every day. I think at this point, the Cubs are looking to kind of pick their spots to be able to deploy him out there. And how they end up doing that remains to be seen. I'm sure David Ross has kind of idea in mind on how he wants to do that. But, I'll say just the early returns from Madrigal is like he's making the plays, like the plays that are there that need to be made. It seems like he's making them. So I guess we'll kind of see once those harder plays start coming and seeing how he is able to defend that way. But early returns is that he's playing a serviceable third base. And I guess that you couldn't really that's all you could have asked for at this point, is that he's not making himself look like a fool out there or something he's playing third base. He's making the plays that need to be made, and you'll see if he can do anything more than that as kind of spring training goes on.
Yeah. Another guy I was only able to watch the game yesterday. But PCA made a great throw to second to get a guy trying to tag up on a deep fly ball. I didn't see him do anything with the bat, but you can see the defense plays at the major league level with that alone. I'm not saying he should be on the open day roster. I'm just saying that you can see why so many people love this guy. So that was exciting for me, because out of the one game I got to watch over the weekend.
Doug's saying small sample size. It's a really small sample size.
Small
sample size.
It's a very small sample size.
Very, 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 very small sample. That's why we're calling them our daily overreactions.
I did like Assad, though. Assad did look pretty good in those, like,
the ass man was shoving. Let me tell you.
He was shoving it, yeah. I will, stock down. Bailey Horn didn't look very good in his inning, and he's a guy that I think is on the radar to maybe be a reliever for the Cubs at some point later this year. He was in Double-A last year. I assume he might start in Triple-A this year, but he was not good yesterday. But there wasn't a lot from yesterday that like stuck out other than Madrigal to me and Javier Assad. So,
Tyone just gave up a 3-run homer.
But apparently he had 2 really good strikeouts early in the season.
2 or 3
early in the game.
Anyways,
the funny thing with that
let's all overreact.
As far as the overreactions go, it's like I always love when like people get pissed about spring training games, and then you find out like, oh, like I threw that at bat that I gave up a home run. I threw 6 straight sliders because I'm working on my slider today. Right. Like it's always the funniest thing with spring training. So I'll let you guys overreact.
Have Javier Assad # shove with us, right? Shove with us. We'll be back shoving again tomorrow, Tuesday, 1:20 live with a special guest in studio. Hope you'll join us for that. We'll recap all of today's action, split squad action for the Cubs. Hopefully have some injury updates to react to as well. And we thank you for joining us in the live chat on YouTube. Those of you that did, a lot of good comments today. Had a lot of fun. And we'll see you at 1:20 on Tuesday. Thanks for checking out the CHGO Cubs podcast presented by DraftKings, America's top-rated sportsbook. Don't forget, # vibe with us. Until tomorrow, fly the W.